A young woman accidentally slapped the wrong man, unaware he was a millionaire, and he ended up falling for her. The cafe buzzed with soft chatter, the clinking of coffee cups, and the rich scent of freshly brewed coffee. Emma Davis sat by the window, her laptop open, though the words on the screen blurred as her thoughts raced. Her day had been a train wreck. Earlier, she had caught her now ex-boyfriend shamelessly flirting with another girl. The betrayal stung, leaving her fuming and heartbroken. She was trying to distract herself when her phone buzzed. Another message from him. "Emma, can we talk?" It wasn't a big deal. With an annoyed grunt, she shoved her phone into her bag, accidentally knocking over her coffee. "Ugh," she muttered, grabbing a napkin to clean the mess. In her rush, her scarf slipped unnoticed to the floor. At the counter, Nathan Reed stood waiting for his black coffee. Dressed in a crisp shirt and dark pants, he carried himself with quiet confidence. As the founder of a successful tech company, he preferred to keep a low profile. Spotting the fallen scarf near Emma's table, he picked it up, intending to return it. "Excuse me," he began as he approached her table, scarf in hand. Emma, still seething from earlier, didn't hear him clearly. All she saw was a man standing too close for comfort. Her mind flashed to every warning about strangers. "How dare you touch me like that?" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to draw attention. Nathan froze, caught off guard. "Wait, I didn't," he started, his brow furrowing in confusion. Emma stood, her chair scraping loudly. "Don't deny it," she interrupted, her eyes blazing. Before he could respond, her hand flew up, asterisk slap star. The sound echoed through the cafe, silencing everyone. Gasps filled the room as all eyes turned to them. Nathan's cheek burned, but the real sting was the humiliation. He held up the scarf, his voice calm but firm. "I was just trying to return this. You dropped it." Emma's breath hitched. She glanced at the scarf, piecing together the situation too late. Her face drained of color as realization hit. "Oh my God!" she whispered, her anger replaced by shock. Before she could apologize, Nathan stepped back, his expression unreadable. "It's fine," he said curtly, dropping the scarf on the table. "Have a good day." Without another word, he walked out, the cafe door swinging shut behind him. Emma stood frozen, mortified. The whispers of the patrons burned into her back. One barista muttered, "What was that about?" Another shrugged. "Who knows?" But he didn't look like he deserved it. Emma's hands trembled as she sank back into her chair, her cheeks burning with shame. "What have I done?" She wanted to chase after him, to explain, but the humiliation rooted her to the spot. The scarf lay on the table, a silent reminder of her outburst. She buried her face in her hands, tears threatening to fall. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of her story with the man she had so completely misjudged. The next week brought Emma a fresh start, or so she thought. Dressed in her best blazer and pencil skirt, she stood outside the gleaming glass tower of Reed Technologies, clutching her portfolio. This was her dream opportunity, an internship at one of the country's top tech companies. After the cafe disaster, she had thrown herself into preparing for this interview, determined to make a good impression. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped into the sleek, modern lobby. "Here we go," she murmured, steadying her nerves. The interview started smoothly. Seated across from two HR representatives, Emma confidently answered questions about her skills, academic background, and passion for innovation. Her poise seemed to impress them, and as the interview wrapped up, the lead representative smiled warmly. "We have one final step. Our CEO likes to personally meet all potential interns." Emma blinked in surprise. "The CEO?" Before she could ask more, the representative stood and gestured toward a nearby door. "He'll meet you in his office." As she entered the spacious office, the first thing Emma noticed was a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a stunning view of the city. The second thing she noticed was the man seated behind the massive oak desk. Her breath caught. It was him, the man from the cafe, the man she had slapped. Nathan looked up from his laptop, his sharp blue eyes locking onto hers. For a brief moment, his expression flickered with recognition, but then, just as quickly, his face returned to a mask of cool indifference. "Miss Davis," he said, his voice calm but distant. "Please have a seat." Emma hesitated, the memory of her mistake crashing over her. "Mr. Reed, Sit, he interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument. Flustered, she obeyed, perching nervously on the edge of the chair. The next few minutes were excruciating. Nathan asked her a series of professional questions, his demeanor polite but detached. He didn't mention the cafe incident, but the tension in the room was palpable. Emma stumbled through her answers, unable to shake the feeling that he was silently judging her. When the interview ended, Nathan closed her portfolio and leaned back in his chair, regarding her with an unreadable expression. "We'll let you know," he said curtly. Emma stood, her palms damp with sweat. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice barely audible. As she turned to leave, she couldn't resist glancing back. Nathan was already focused on his laptop, as if she had been dismissed from his thoughts entirely. To Emma's surprise, she received an email 2 days later. Subject: internship offer, Reed Technologies. She got the job, but her relief was short-lived when she read the details. Her role would involve working directly with Nathan on several key projects. On her first day, she arrived at the office early, determined to prove herself. But from the moment she stepped into Nathan's conference room, the dynamic was tense. "Good morning, Miss Davis." Nathan greeted her with a clipped tone, not even glancing up from his tablet. "Good morning, Mr. Reed," she replied, trying to maintain her composure. Throughout the meeting, Nathan remained professional but distant, never addressing her directly unless necessary. Every suggestion she made was met with a polite but dismissive "noted." By the end of the day, Emma was fuming, back in her small apartment. She paced the living room, venting to her best friend over the phone. "I can't believe this is my life," she groaned. "Not only is he my boss, but he's treating me like I'm invisible." Her friend chuckled. "You did slap him in public, Emma." "That was a mistake," she snapped. "And he knows it. Why doesn't he just call me out on it instead of giving me the cold shoulder?" "Maybe he's testing you," her friend suggested. Emma sighed, flopping onto the couch. "Well, if he's testing my patience, he's succeeding." As the weeks passed, their interactions remained tense. Nathan never mentioned the cafe incident, but Emma could feel the unspoken tension simmering between them. Despite her frustrations, she couldn't help but notice things about him. His sharp intellect, his ability to command a room, the quiet moments when his focus was so intense it was almost intimidating. But she also noticed something else. Behind the cold exterior, there were glimpses of someone different. A fleeting smile when a project succeeded. A quiet word of encouragement to a struggling team member. And though she hated to admit it, those glimpses intrigued her. For now, however, she had one goal: prove to Nathan Reed that she was more than her mistake. The office buzzed with energy as Reed Technologies prepared for their quarterly review meeting. The team worked tirelessly to finalize their presentations, and Emma found herself at the center of the chaos, juggling last-minute edits and ensuring every detail was perfect. Despite Nathan's aloof demeanor, she had made progress improving herself, but the tension between them remained unspoken, a silent weight hanging over their interactions. The meeting began smoothly, with various department heads presenting updates. Nathan sat at the head of the table, his presence commanding without effort. Emma was seated farther down the table, taking notes and occasionally glancing at Nathan, her thoughts drifting back to the incident at the cafe. She had tried to forget it, to move past it, but the guilt lingered, especially in moments like these, when Nathan's calm professionalism reminded her how deeply she had misjudged him. It was during the Q&A session that everything unraveled. One of the marketing leads, a confident young man named Daniel, leaned back in his chair and asked casually, "Mr. Reed, I've always admired how you handle challenges with such composure. Tell me, what's the most unexpected situation you've dealt with recently?" The room chuckled lightly, but Nathan's expression didn't change. He glanced briefly at Emma, and for a split second, she saw something in his eyes, amusement. Then his lips curved into the faintest smile. "Well," he began, his tone light, "let's just say I've learned the importance of patience in unexpected circumstances." For example, he paused, his gaze sweeping the room before landing on Emma again. Returning a scarf could be far more complicated than one might think. The room chuckled, unaware of the context, but Emma froze. Her heart dropped. The subtle emphasis, the flicker of humor in his voice. It was clear. He was talking about her. After the meeting, Emma lingered in the conference room, her mind racing. Asterisk he knows. He's known all along. Asterisk her cheeks burned as she remembered the slap, the accusations, the public humiliation she had inflicted on him. For weeks, she had convinced herself he had forgotten. But now, she realized he hadn't. He had just chosen not to retaliate. And that realization stung more than any scolding ever could. Later that day, Emma found her chance. Nathan was in his office reviewing documents when she knocked lightly on the open door. Mr. Reed. He looked up, his expression neutral. Miss Davis, do you need something? She hesitated, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. I wanted to talk to you about something. Something personal. He set down his pen, leaning back in his chair. Go on. Emma took a deep breath, her hands twisting nervously. I think you know what this is about. The cafe. What I did. His expression didn't change. What about it? Her voice trembled. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I misunderstood the situation, and I overreacted. I shouldn't have done what I did. For a moment, he said nothing, his gaze steady and unreadable. Then he leaned forward slightly. Why are you telling me this now? Emma swallowed hard. Because it's been bothering me. I know I humiliated you in front of everyone, and you didn't deserve that. I don't know why you didn't call me out on it, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Nathan's lips pressed into a thin line. I appreciate the apology, he said simply, his tone cool. But there was no warmth in his voice, no sign of forgiveness. Emma's heart sank. I mean it, she added, her voice quieter now. I really do. I'm sure you do, he replied, already turning his attention back to his documents. If that's all, Miss Davis, I have work to do. Her chest tightened, but she nodded, retreating from the office. As she walked down the hall, the weight of his indifference pressed heavily on her. He doesn't believe me, and the worst part? She couldn't blame him. The following week, the tension between them remained. But Emma threw herself into her work, determined to prove herself in other ways. When a major project encountered delays due to a sick team member, Emma stepped up, taking on additional tasks to ensure everything stayed on track. She worked late nights, coordinating between departments, triple-checking every detail. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. One evening, Nathan entered a conference room where Emma was huddled over a stack of documents. Miss Davis, he said, his voice breaking the silence. She looked up, startled. Mr. Reed, I was just finishing up the logistics of the presentation tomorrow. He approached the table, his gaze scanning the neatly organized files. I see. You've been handling this project almost single-handedly since Daniel fell ill. It's a team effort, she replied quickly. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Is it? Emma hesitated, unsure how to respond. He straightened, his expression softening ever so slightly. You've done well, he said, his tone quieter now. Your dedication is impressive. Her eyes widened in surprise. Thank you, Mr. Reed. He nodded, lingering for a moment before turning to leave. But as he reached the door, he paused. And Miss Davis? Yes. His gaze met hers, and for the first time, there was a hint of warmth in his voice. About the cafe, I don't hold grudges. You can stop beating yourself up over it. Her breath caught. He gave her a small, almost imperceptible smile before walking out, leaving her stunned. For the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps the walls between them were finally starting to come down. The days at Reed Technologies grew busier as the team worked toward the launch of a major product. Long hours, endless revisions, and tight deadlines became the norm, forcing Nathan and Emma to interact more closely than ever before. At first, their exchanges remained strictly professional, brief, to the point, and focused on work. But as the pressure mounted, cracks began to form in their carefully maintained walls. One evening, long after most employees had left for the day, Nathan found Emma in in the conference room. She was seated cross-legged on a chair, her laptop balanced precariously on one knee as she scribbled notes into a notebook with her free hand. Her hair, usually neatly styled, was pulled into a messy bun, and her blazer had been discarded over the back of the chair. Despite her disheveled appearance, there was a fierce determination in her eyes. Nathan cleared his throat, causing her to glance up. "Still here?" he asked, leaning casually against the doorframe. Emma sighed, pushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "Apparently, deadlines don't care about sleep." He chuckled softly and walked into the room, setting his tablet on the table. "You know, delegating is allowed," he said, his tone lighter than usual. "Not when you're the new B," she replied, flashing him a tired but genuine smile. Nathan watched her for a moment, his gaze softening. "Coffee," he offered. She blinked in surprise. Sure." Minutes later, they sat together in a quiet break room, steaming mugs of coffee in hand. The conversation started predictably, revolving around the project. But as the night wore on, it drifted into more personal territory. "You're not what I expected," Nathan said suddenly, breaking a lull in the conversation. Emma frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "When you first started, I thought you were impulsive, maybe a bit reckless." Her cheeks flushed. "You mean because I slapped you?" He smirked, taking a sip of his coffee. "It didn't help." She groaned, burying her face in her hands. "I'll never live that down, will I?" "Probably not," he teased. Then, more seriously, he added, "But I was wrong. You're passionate, smart, and you care about what you do. That's rare." Emma looked up, her surprise evident. "Thank you." Over the following weeks, moments like these became more frequent. Late-night brainstorming sessions turned into quiet conversations about life outside work. Emma shared stories of her college days, her love for literature, and her dreams of making a difference in the tech world. Nathan listened intently, his usual guarded demeanor softening as he began to see her not just as an employee, but as someone remarkable in her own right. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Nathan invited Emma to join him for dinner at a small bistro near the office. "Just to discuss the project," he clarified, though the slight hesitation in his voice suggested otherwise. As they sat by the window, the warm glow of the restaurant's lighting creating a cozy ambience, Emma finally mustered the courage to ask something that had been on her mind. "Why do you do it?" she asked, setting down her fork. "Do what?" "This. The company. The long hours. The constant pressure. You're already successful. You could walk away any time." Nathan leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "Do you know what it's like to always be defined by something you didn't earn?" he asked quietly. Emma tilted her head, waiting for him to continue. "My family is, let's just say, well known. My father built his own empire, and for as long as I can remember, people have looked at me and seen his son. Not Nathan, just the heir to his success." He paused, swirling the wine in his glass. "I started this company to prove that I could succeed on my own, that I'm more than just a name or a bank account." Emma's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. "That must be exhausting," she said softly. He nodded. "It is, but it's also worth it." She smiled. "For what it's worth, I think you've already proven yourself." Nathan met her gaze, a small, genuine smile curving his lips. "Thank you, Emma. That means more than you know." As the weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. Nathan began to notice things about Emma he hadn't before. The way she lit up when discussing her ideas, the quiet determination in her every action, the kindness she showed to everyone around her. She wasn't just capable. She was extraordinary. And slowly, without realizing it, she began to chip away at the walls he had built around his heart. For Emma, the change was just as profound. The man she had once dismissed as cold and detached now seemed so much more. Beneath his stoic exterior was someone who cared deeply, who carried the weight of expectations, yet still sought to uplift those around him. He wasn't just her boss anymore. He was someone she admired. And maybe, just maybe, someone she could come to love. The energy in the office was tense, almost suffocating. Nathan paced back and forth in his glass-walled office, The usual calm confidence he exuded replaced by visible frustration. Reed Technologies had hit a major roadblock. A last-minute change from one of their clients threatened to derail the product launch they had spent months preparing. Nathan had always thrived under pressure, but this time, the stakes fell higher. The setback wasn't just a professional blow. It was personal. Emma sat at her desk, watching him through the glass. She had never seen him like this. "Is he okay?" one of her colleagues whispered. Emma shook her head, slightly. "I don't know." She couldn't ignore the pull in her chest, the urge to help. She had worked closely with Nathan long enough to know how much this company meant to him. Grabbing her notebook, she stood, squaring her shoulders. "If I'm not back in an hour, tell HR it's been nice working here," she joked lightly, earning a laugh from her colleague. Inside the office, Nathan glanced up as she entered. "Emma," he said, his voice tight. "I'm busy." "I know," she replied, shutting the door behind her. "But I think I can help." He raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Help?" "Yes," she said, her tone steady. "I've been working on a backup proposal, in case the client pulled something like this. It's not perfect, but it could buy us time." Nathan stared at her for a moment, his frustration giving way to curiosity. "You prepared for this?" Emma nodded. "I had a feeling something might go wrong. So I started drafting alternatives a few weeks ago." Without a word, Nathan gestured for her to continue. She placed her notebook on the table, walking him through her ideas step by step. As she spoke, Nathan's expression softened. For the first time all day, he felt a glimmer of hope. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "You're full of surprises, Miss Davis," he said quietly. Emma smiled back. "I've been told that before." That evening, as the office emptied and the two of them remained, Nathan looked across the room at Emma, who was buried in her laptop. He couldn't help but feel a growing sense of admiration, and something more. For so long, he had convinced himself that work was all that mattered, that emotions had no place in his life. But now, watching Emma's dedication, her kindness, and the way she never hesitated to step up when it mattered most, he felt something shift. The following weekend, Reed Technologies hosted its annual corporate gala. The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers and champagne glasses, the air buzzing with conversation. Emma, dressed in a stunning navy gown, felt out of place among the crowd of executives and socialites, but she held her head high. Nathan spotted her from across the room, his breath catching for a moment. She looked radiant. For most of the evening, Nathan kept his distance, unsure how to approach her, but his resolve wavered when he noticed a familiar face approaching her. Daniel Hayes, a competitor and frequent thorn in Nathan's side. Daniel was charming, suave, and most annoyingly overly confident. And now he was talking to Emma. Nathan's jaw tightened as he watched Daniel laugh at something Emma said, his hand resting casually on the back of her chair. The sight stirred something deep within him, an unfamiliar but unmistakable pang of jealousy. Emma noticed Nathan's gaze from across the room. His expression was unreadable, but there was an intensity in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. "Your boss looks like he's plotting my demise," Daniel joked, following her gaze. Emma laughed nervously. "He's just focused." Daniel leaned closer, his tone playful. "Well, if you ever get tired of working for him, I'd be happy to steal you from my team." Emma smiled politely, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She couldn't stop thinking about Nathan. Finally, unable to stand it any longer, Nathan crossed the room. "Emma," he said, his voice firm but calm. "May I have a word?" Daniel raised an eyebrow, but stepped back with a smirk. "Of course. Don't let me keep you." Nathan ignored him, his focus solely on Emma. "Is everything okay?" she asked as he led her toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. He hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "I didn't like seeing you with him," he admitted finally. Emma blinked, taken aback. "What?" Nathan ran a hand through his hair, uncharacteristically vulnerable. I care about you, Emma, more than I should. And seeing him talk to you, it made me realize how much you mean to me." Her heart raced at his words, her breath catching in her throat. "Nathan, I know this is unexpected," he he continued, his voice softer now. But I can't ignore it anymore. You're more than just an employee to me. You're everything. Emma stared at him, emotions swirling within her. For so long, she had fought her growing feelings for him, convincing herself it was one-sided. But now, hearing his confession, she felt a spark of hope. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she replied. You mean a lot to me, too, she admitted. But this is complicated. Nathan nodded, his gaze steady. I'm willing to face any complication, if it means being with you. In that moment, the tension between them melted away, replaced by a fragile but undeniable connection. And for the first time, both of them allowed themselves to imagine what could be. The days following the gala had been a whirlwind. For Emma, the memory of Nathan's confession lingered like a warm glow, even as they returned to the familiar routine of work. She hadn't fully processed what it meant for them, but she knew one thing for certain. Her feelings for him were real. Nathan, on the other hand, had been quieter than usual. Though his demeanor at work remained professional, there was a newfound softness in the way he looked at her, a silent acknowledgement of the moment they had shared. But that fragile understanding between them was about to be tested in the worst way. One afternoon, Emma was delivering a report to Nathan's office. The door was slightly ajar, and as she approached, she heard voices. Inside, Nathan was speaking to a potential investor, a man with a sharp voice and an even sharper tongue. So, the investor said, his tone sly, I notice you've been spending a lot of time with that young assistant of yours. Nathan's voice was calm but firm. She's a talented employee. Her work speaks for itself. Talented, sure, the investor replied, a hint of mockery in his voice. But come on, Nathan, a man like you doesn't get involved unless there's something personal. Emma froze outside the door, her heart pounding. Nathan's response was measured but chilling in its detachment. She's an asset to the company. That's all. The words hit Emma like a slap. Asterisk an asset? That's all. Asterisk. She couldn't hear the rest of the conversation, over the rush of blood in her ears. Her chest tightened as doubt and humiliation washed over her. Had she misread everything? The stolen moments, his confession, the way he looked at her, had it all been meaningless? Emma spent the rest of the day in a daze. She replayed his words over and over, each repetition cutting deeper. By the time she returned home, her mind was made up. She couldn't stay. Not when she felt like a pawn in whatever game Nathan was playing. The next morning, Emma handed her resignation letter to HR. Emma avoided Nathan's office, knowing she wouldn't be able to face him without breaking down. Instead, she left a brief email explaining her departure. Subject * resignation. Nathan, thank you for the opportunities I've had at Reed Technologies. However, I believe it's time for me to move on. My last day will be at the end of the week. Best regards, Emma Davis. When Nathan read the email, he felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. He reread it twice, disbelief turning to panic. Why was she leaving? His mind raced, trying to piece together what could have gone wrong. He called her immediately, but the call went to voicemail. Emma, it's Nathan. Please call me back. We need to talk. But the hours passed with no response. Desperate for answers, Nathan sought out his assistant, Khalid. Do you know why Emma resigned? He asked, his voice tight with frustration. Khalid hesitated. She's been quiet all day. But I did hear something about your conversation with Mr. Grayson yesterday. Nathan's stomach sank. Grayson, the investor who had made that crude remark about Emma. What had she heard? Realization dawned, and with it came a crushing sense of regret. She misunderstood, Nathan murmured, his voice barely audible. Khalid frowned. Misunderstood what? Nathan didn't answer. He was already heading out the door. That evening, Emma was packing up her desk when Nathan appeared. Emma, he said, his voice firm but soft. She stiffened at the sound of his voice, but didn't look up. What are you doing here? She asked, her tone flat. I came to talk, he said, stepping closer. I got your email. There's nothing to talk about, she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady. Nathan's gaze softened. If this is about what you heard yesterday. Her head snapped up, anger flashing in her eyes. Don't, she interrupted. Don't act like all I am to you is a useful tool. His chest tightened at the pain in her voice. That's not what I meant, he said quietly. Grayson was out of line, and I was trying to shut him down without escalating the situation. And you thought dismissing me like that was the best way to do it? Nathan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. I handled it poorly, he admitted. But you have to know, Emma, that's not how I see you. You're not just an employee. You're so much more than that. She stared at him, her expression conflicted. Then why didn't you say that? Why didn't you stand up for me? Nathan's shoulders sagged. Because I was afraid, he confessed. Afraid that if I said what I really felt, it would cost me the deal. And that's no excuse. I see that now. But please believe me when I say I regret it. Emma shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. It's not just about yesterday, Nathan. It's about trust. And right now, I don't know if I can trust you. Her words hit him harder than he expected. I'll earn it back, he said softly. If you give me the chance, I'll prove to you that you can. Emma hesitated, torn between the hurt he had caused and the genuine remorse in his eyes. Maybe, she whispered, her voice trembling. But not here, not now. And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving Nathan standing alone, vowing to do whatever it took to make things right. The grand conference room at Reed Technologies buzzed with energy as employees gathered for the quarterly town hall meeting. Nathan stood at the front, flanked by his leadership team, exuding his usual confidence, but inside he was anything but calm. Today wasn't just about the company's achievements or plans. Today, he was going to do something far more personal. He scanned the crowd, hoping to spot her. Emma. She hadn't responded to his calls or emails in the week since her resignation, and he had respected her space. But when Khalid mentioned she had been invited to the town hall as a gesture of appreciation for her contributions, Nathan knew this was his chance. And then he saw her. Emma sat near the back, her posture poised but distant. She avoided his gaze, but he could feel the tension radiating from her. He took a deep breath. It was now or never. The meeting began as usual, with updates on company milestones and upcoming projects. But as the formalities wound down, Nathan stepped forward, the room falling silent as his commanding presence filled the space. Before we conclude, he began, his voice steady, I'd like to take a moment to address something important, something personal. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Emma's heart raced as she sat up straighter, sensing where this was going. Nathan continued, his gaze sweeping the room before settling on her. Over the past few months, I've learned that success means nothing if you lose sight of the people who make it all possible. And sometimes, you don't realize how much someone means to you until it's too late. The room fell silent. I want to take this moment to acknowledge someone who has been an incredible part of this company, someone whose dedication and passion have left a lasting impact, not just on our work, but on me personally. Nathan stepped away from the podium, his eyes locked on Emma's. Emma Davis. A collective gasp echoed through the room as all eyes turned to her. Emma froze, her cheeks burning. Your contributions to Reed Technologies have been invaluable, Nathan said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. But I fail to see how much more you brought. Your heart, your determination, your courage. I made mistakes. I let my pride and fear cloud my judgment. And in doing so, I hurt someone I cared deeply about. Emma's breath caught. I'm here to say, in front of everyone, that I'm sorry. Not just for the misunderstandings, but for not standing up for you when I should have. For not showing you the respect you deserve. The room was utterly still, every pair of eyes darting between Nathan and Emma. I don't care about deals or investors, he continued, his voice growing stronger. What I care about is you, Emma. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust again. For a moment, the silence was deafening. Then, slowly, Emma stood, her legs trembling as she met his gaze. Nathan, she began, her voice shaking slightly. This is a lot. He nodded, his expression vulnerable. I know, and I'll understand if you're not ready to forgive me. But I needed you to know how I feel. The room watched, holding its collective breath. Emma's heart raced as she processed his words. The sincerity in his voice, the way he was laying everything bare, not just to her but to everyone, was unlike anything she had expected. Finally, she spoke. "You hurt me," she said quietly, "and I wasn't sure if I could ever trust you again. But seeing you own up to your mistakes in front of everyone," she paused, her voice breaking, "it means more than you know." Nathan's shoulders relaxed slightly, hope flickering in his eyes. "So," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips, "maybe we can start over." A wave of murmurs swept through the room, followed by applause. Nathan's face broke into a rare, genuine smile as he nodded. "I'd like that," he said softly. The weeks that followed were a time of rebuilding. Emma returned to Reed Technologies, but this time their dynamic was different. Nathan treated her not just as a valuable team member, but as an equal, someone whose opinions he deeply respected. Outside the office, their relationship blossomed. They took things slowly, learning more about each other with every shared meal, every late-night conversation, every quiet moment spent together. For Nathan, Emma became a source of strength and balance, someone who reminded him of what truly mattered. For Emma, Nathan proved that even the most guarded hearts could change with time and effort. One evening, as the sun set over the city, they stood together on the balcony of Nathan's penthouse. The golden light bathed them in warmth as Nathan turned to her, his expression serious but tender. "You know," he began, taking her hand, "when you walked into that cafe all those months ago, I never imagined we'd end up here." Emma laughed softly. "You mean after I slapped you?" He smirked. "Exactly." She leaned into him, her smile fading into something softer. "I'm glad we did, though, because despite everything, I wouldn't change a thing." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his eyes filled with a depth of emotion she had never seen before. "Neither would I," he said. And as they stood there, the city lights twinkling below, both of them knew they had found something rare. A love built not on perfection, but on growth, forgiveness, and unwavering trust. As Emma and Nathan found their way to each other, their journey reminds us that love isn't about never making mistakes. It's about owning them, growing from them, and choosing to build something stronger together. Their story teaches us that even in moments of misunderstanding and pain, there's always hope for redemption, forgiveness, and a fresh start. If this story touched your heart, imagine how many more powerful and inspiring tales await you. Subscribe to soul-stirring stories for unforgettable narratives of love, resilience, and second chances, stories that remind us of the beauty in imperfection and the strength of the human heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment below. What part of Emma and Nathan's journey resonated with you the most? Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt adventure. Until next time, keep believing in love, hope, and the magic of new beginnings.